Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the F-20 Tigershark. This is a currently 12.0 BR premium fighter in the American Air Force's tech tree. This vehicle pack currently costs $74.99 USD and comes with 2,500 Golden Eagles, 20 days of premium time, and of course, the Tigershark itself. With that said, in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about this aircraft, including its stats, how it plays, I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give it some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation and if I feel this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. With that said, if you like this kind of video, please consider subscribing, but without further ado, let's get into it. Now to start, I'll place its stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its rate of climb, turn time, and its armament. Now for how it plays. Put simply, the F-20 Tigershark plays almost identically to the F-16A and ADF, but very slightly worse. The Tigershark features excellent acceleration, maneuverability, and killing capabilities. It can carry up to 6 AIM-9L all-aspect IR short-range missiles, or it can trade 2 Sidewinders for a single AIM-7F, being able to essentially trade 4 AIM-9Ls for 2 AIM-7Fs. If you're wondering how much worse AIM-7Fs are compared to AIM-7Ms, well, at least currently AIM-7Fs and AIM-7Ms perform identically in War Thunder, though I can see this easily changing in the future, which could at that time put AIM-7Fs at a slight disadvantage compared to AIM-7Ms, but otherwise again, performance-wise they are identical as of the recording of this video. Now, missile talk aside, the F-20 Tigershark again plays very similarly to the F-16A and ADF in combat. Basically, it will benefit from staying low to the ground, keeping good energy in turns, and using its immense power-to-weight ratio to come out of turns extremely quickly while gaining speed. This vehicle, after all, can supercruise at sea level, although just barely, again, without afterburners. Now, it can perform decently at a range, but again, you'll be giving up 2 AIM-9Ls for each singular AIM-7F that you can equip, so it will typically be a better idea to roll with AIM-9Ls as it plays to the strengths of this vehicle, again being that the Tigershark is a close quarters combat master. Now, of course, a counterpoint to this is that the Tigershark has a surprisingly good radar that will track better than early F-16 radars, so the call is yours, of course, on whether or not you want to trade those AIM-9Ls for a singular AIM-7F. But being that top tier is a bit homogenized, you somewhat have to follow the template of low, fast, and nimble to do well in this vehicle. But the Tigershark is thankfully able to do that very competently, so much so that you can gun down enemy fighters as though it was a much lower BR, even with the 30mm Chungus cannon. My only big concern with this vehicle when it comes to air-to-air combat is the low number of countermeasures, as the Tigershark only contains 45, which means that you will be forced to ration them at a BR in which you really can't easily afford to ration countermeasures. Now for close air support, the Tigershark is fairly bland, though fairly effective as well. Its main weapons are going to be its 4 AGM-65B Mavericks, of which are TV guided and can be launched from a fairly good distance of, at least in my experience, around 9 to 10 kilometers from target, as that is normally where targets begin to track on these missiles. These should normally be a one-shot kill, though of course you can sometimes critically damage an enemy instead. The main kryptonite to these missiles will be maps with lots of cover, namely city maps, as these missiles are subsonic and will lose tracking once the target hides behind a building, although of course you have other obstructions as well, such as clouds, smoke, and otherwise, that can muddle these things up. Otherwise, the CAS loadout of the Tigershark is fairly mediocre, with it only being able to carry up to 3,600 kilograms of ordnance at max, split between 500-pound bombs, 750-pound bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, and 2,000-pound bombs, though of course you can only carry a single 2,000-pounder. You can also carry up to 76 Mighty Mouse rockets, but no Zunies. Thankfully, the Tigershark has ballistics computers for both bombs and rockets, which should help to aim the dumb weaponry. The F-20 can perform CAS well, but it isn't necessarily anything special in that regard, at least not in comparison to similar BR American aircraft, including the F-5E. Now with all that being said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. This vehicle can carry a nice assortment of anti-ground ordnance, including up to 4 AGM-65Bs, up to 3 1,000-pound bombs, a single 2,000-pound bomb, numerous 750-pound or even 500-pound bombs, and even Mighty Mouse rockets. Speaking of, as a separate part to that first strength, you have the ability to carry a 30mm GAL-13A cannon, of which can annihilate both air and ground, though of course carrying it comes with a huge penalty against performance on the Tigershark. It also costs no spawn points for CAS, at least as of when when I record this. Third, this vehicle has very good performance between speed and maneuverability. It can even supercruise at sea level, although just barely. For its fourth strength, this can carry up to 6 AIM-9Ls, of which are all-aspect missiles. Fifth, this features ballistic computers for both bombs and rockets. For its sixth strength, this features the very good AN/APG-67 radar. Beyond this, the Tigershark has extremely strong combat flaps that work until about Mach 0.95 at sea level and automatically retract beyond that. And finally, we have premium RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses. This vehicle has a limited number of countermeasures with only 45 in total. Second, the Tigershark currently lacks a drop tank, so you'll be flying exclusively on internal fuel, which itself is limited to 28 minutes. Third, while not terrible, the two 20mm M39A3 cannons aren't great and only perform somewhat decently versus aircraft and lightly armored ground vehicles. For its fourth weakness, this vehicle can only carry 2 AIM-7Fs, and again, in order to do so, each single Sparrow replaces 2 of its AIM-9Ls. For its fifth weakness, this vehicle has somewhat mediocre air brakes, though at least not terrible. For its sixth weakness, the Tigershark has the somewhat limited ordnance carrying capacity of only up to 3,600 kilograms, with only 4 AGM-65Bs and 9 500-pound bombs, with no guided bombs at all. And finally, this vehicle has an extremely cost for expert crew of 1,770,000 SL and an additional 3,400 GE in order to ace it. And with how nimble this vehicle is, it really helps to give it an expert crew. And on a final pricing note, the vehicle pack itself costs $74.99 USD currently when not on sale, which is a hugely expensive price to pay for a vehicle. Now with all that being said, let's get into how I score this vehicle. And first, for dogfighting and air RB, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. With how absolutely dominant missiles have become at this BR, having a small aircraft isn't nearly as much of a benefit as it used to be. While it can turn very well and even has extremely good performance, at its current 12.0 BR, the Tigershark performs very similarly compared to an F-16, though just technically marginally worse. The F-20 has decent, though not great, AIM-7Fs that are guided via surprisingly good radar. The guns, while not great, are fairly decent in setting enemies on fire or even ripping wings off, though has somewhat low ammo in between the two, though a much lower rate of fire when compared to the 20mm Vulcan, which means that it may be tougher to hit enemies, especially those that are going across your field of view. In all, though, the Tigershark is a fun little aircraft to whip around the air and destroy aircraft while grinding your tech tree. The F-20 is kind of like an LS swap Mazda Miata, at least if you're a car guy you might understand what I mean. Now with that said, for close air support, I give it a 5.25 out of 10. The real saving grace here is the inclusion of up to 4 AGM-65B Mavericks, but that's about it. It doesn't carry laser guided bombs, it doesn't carry Zunis, and it has a somewhat limited total ordnance load of only 3,600 kilograms, and only a limited amount of dumb weapons. If it wasn't for the 4 Mavericks, I'd rate this vehicle a 3 out of 10 in CAS, because while not terrible, it really isn't all that good in CAS otherwise. Even still, the AGM-65B is a somewhat outdated design at this BR, and isn't the best in terms of tracking, which may leave you wanting for more. Otherwise, this is a pretty foolproof CAS aircraft, as it is easy to use in that role, and doesn't ask too much of the player. It's decent, but not great. Now overall, I give this a 6 out of 10. All the specs and stats and everything regarding this plane really make me want to put it at 5.75 out of 10. But my experience with this vehicle has been slightly better than what I expected. In fact, I might even say that rather than this being like a marginally worse F-16, I might want to say that this is a much better F-5E, which would of course make sense. Now with that said, the Tigershark is actually quite competent as a dogfighter, even more so than I thought it would be, as I thought that'd be a worse F-16A. I've had matches with the Tigershark that are better than any matches I've had in the F-16A in this short time that I've had the Tigershark, even though again, and I'll go over this in just a few moments, the Tigershark has a little bit worse performance than the F-16A. But no, of course, it somehow does very well for me, despite not only the stat card showing that it has worse stats, again, compared to the F-16A, but again, my tests show that as well. Even still, perhaps it's the size of this vehicle or something else, but the Tigershark does pretty damn well in air battles. Versus ground targets, it's usable, but not great. The F-16A is much better in that role while sharing the same BR, with even the earlier and lower BR F-5E F-5E being arguably even more capable than the Tigershark in regards to CAS. The F-20 is functional but not ideal. It'll get the job done better than many other fighters, but there are better planes out there in the American air tech tree. Even the A-6E is arguably better for CAS, even at the highest BRs of the game. Still, the F-20A is good or even very good, but not necessarily outright great, at least all things considered. It goes with the flow and doesn't stand out too much from the pack in terms of performance. This might speak to the growing parity and homogeneity in higher BRs, as most vehicles are essentially just different takes on the same formula, which means that there will be fewer and fewer planes that do one thing really well, and instead will be more planes that do everything fairly well, thus making it so that, for the most part, all planes will play the same exact way and will increasingly feel the same to fly. In short though, the Tigershark again feels like a very slightly worse F-16A that I do very slightly better in compared to the F-16A. Now, with all of that out of the way, do I recommend purchasing the F-20A Tigershark? Yes, but kind of no at the same time, and there's quite a few reasons for it. First and foremost, this is a $74.99 USD premium pack vehicle, and that by itself gives me a lot of pause when recommending this vehicle. Right off the bat, that pretty much tells me that this is going to be one of those vehicles that you purchase when it goes on sale. I think that's going to be the time to target it. Though, of course, if you're completely obsessed with the Tigershark and you have the money to spend, I guess go ahead and purchase it. But again, that price, $74.99 for a digital vehicle, is just too much. Now, insofar as its vehicle performance is concerned, again, this vehicle feels kind of like a marginally worse F-16A. In fact, I did two different tests with the F-16A comparing it to the F-20, and it was kind of startling. So in my first test, I took both the F-16A and the F-20A, both with 20 minutes of fuel, expert crew, and of course fully spaded. I took the F-20 and F-16A at 500 meters, Mach 1.04, and I turned them 180 degrees. It took the F-20A 8.32 seconds to do that, while it took the F-16A 7.61 seconds to do that. Even further, I took the same vehicles and tested how quickly they can go from a dead start on the runway to 1,000 kilometers per hour and 500 meters. The F-20 took about 35 seconds, while the F-16A took around 32 seconds. Basically, the F-16 in both instances had around 10% better performance than the F-20A, which was really crazy because I did not expect that at all. But again, that's what you're getting with the F-20 Tigershark. Again, obviously, this is supposed to be a hugely upgraded F-5E Tiger, and it really is. However, of course, its closest competition in the American air tech tree is going to be the F-16A, and in my opinion, that's what it'll be compared to most often. And in most comparisons, again, even in the test that I did, the Tigershark is slightly worse than the F-16A in most respects. But opposite to how this thing actually performs compared again to the F-16A, the F-20A, at least in my experience, has been substantially more effective as a fighter than the F-16A or ADF for that matter. I have done far better with the Tigershark than I ever have with the F-16A on a match-by-match basis. The Tigershark is ripping these people up. It might be because this is a better gunfighting platform than the F-16A. Maybe there are some intangible things that I just don't notice that are better on the F-20 Tigershark than the F-16, but the F-20 Tigershark has been a huge treat to fly. This vehicle has been just such an uncommonly nice experience for me that even though, again, it's really not that great in CAS, when it comes to AirRB, it's pretty damn solid. And earlier in this video, I mentioned how AirRB is becoming homogenized. This kind of feels like one of the last vehicles going into AirRB that doesn't necessarily feel like every other vehicle out there. In a way it does, but in a way this almost kind of feels like the last breath where it's like, huh, this is different. That's the Tigershark. It's just a slightly different vehicle that doesn't feel like all the rest, right? Like, if you were to blindfold somebody and have them digitally fly the F-16, F-15, F-14, how many people are going to be able to tell the difference before they crash into the side of a mountain because they're blindfolded? The F-20 is a little bit different than those vehicles, and to me, that's enough. This is a very unique vehicle, and in my opinion, it's a damn shame that Gaijin put this in as a premium vehicle, especially for $74.99 USD, when so many people wanted the F-20 Tigershark to be in the regular air tech tree. If this was a regular vehicle, I would say go ahead, research it. It's amazing. amazing, but being that, again, that's $74.99, I'm gonna have to say, save it for a sale. I really like this vehicle, and the more that I play it, the more I like it, thus it gets my Tankenstein seal of approval. However, again, this is going to be primarily an RRB vehicle. You can use it for CAS, but it's not going to be amazing in that regard. But again, there are very few vehicles like the F-20 Tigershark. This feels like a much faster F-5E, and that is amazing to me, because I am a huge fan of the F-5E. This almost kind of feels like how the MiG-21 feels, except way better with far fewer weaknesses. It's just that good of a vehicle, and again, I'm genuinely surprised by how much I like it. But again, to summarize, do I recommend purchasing it? Yes, but save it for a sale, unfortunately. And again, it gets my Tankenstein seal of approval. By the way, thanks again for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments below. But thanks again, I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.